the fuck? Within the first hour of Postal Brain Damaged, I'd seen about 27 cocks, a few dozen pensioners explode, eaten 7 whole pizzas, and drank enough beer and blood to make the strongest of student households crumble, and seen enough video game references and touchy one-liners to make the King Duke Nukem himself blush.
Ripped like an altar boy on first communion.
If old school shooters and or crude humour that will make your gran weep and pray is your thing, then I think Postal Brain Damaged will be right up your back alley. If it's not your thing, then why the hell did you click on this video in the first place? Either way, welcome to the broadcast. My name is Naj, and these are my first impressions of Postal Brain Damaged. Developed by Hyperstrange and published by Running with Scissors, Postal Brain Damaged releases on June 9th for PC, with console versions coming somewhere down the line. A huge thanks to the developer for the advanced review copy of the game for this video. It is massively appreciated.
Looks like you're just fucking raw on the inside.
First things first, I want to get the elephant out of the room that I have never actually played a Postal game before. Brain Damaged is a spin-off from that series, and from what I understand they are first-person suburban simulators with shooter elements, developed by Running with Scissors, in which you play as Postal Guy, as he lives out his life hating the very core of society, so decides to rip and tear the community apart whilst completing the chores of life. The series has gone on to have a bit of a cult following in the gaming community, so I apologise if everything I just said about the series is completely wrong, but what are you going to do? So that being said, there will be no comparisons to the previous games and will be discussed on its own merit. I have no knowledge of the characters or the world, so I guess you could say this review is from the perspective of a postal virgin. God, these cringe clickbait video titles really do write themselves. A first-person, retro-style shooter in the vein of the classic Doom or Duke Nukem games, and let's speak truth, this style of game has had more comebacks than your mum on a Saturday night in recent years, and many titles do straddle the line of nostalgic and boredom. But in all honesty, this game is an absolute blast. We play as, I assume, Postal Guy, telling a story of a living nightmare as our game begins with him trying to get a new TV so he can sit back, relax, and do jack shit just like you're all doing now watching this video, either laying there on your back or laying a brick on the bog. Like this video to admit it, go on.
Spray and pray.
On this quest for self-seeking procrastination, we run through a series of 15 weird and wonderful levels across 3 acts. And the fact this was my first Postal experience I felt was no detriment to me at all. Whilst there is some sort of plot told through gorgeously cartoonish cutscenes, these simply act as a form of character narration whilst giving us some pretty stylistic visuals that are pleasing. But like the games it pays tribute to, the story is pretty bare bones and the least focused part of the game, but this is in no way a criticism. If anything, it gives the already bizarre concept a more surreal feeling, as I found there was just enough to give the game some form of narrative structure, but that's where it kind of ended for me, as I didn't really know what was going on, nor did I really give a shit. What the game lacks in narrative substance, it makes up for with a fantastically cliched and awesome movie trailer man's voice protagonist that narrates your moves. The humour in this game is explicit, sexual, offensive, and all brilliantly delivered that I genuinely had a couple of laugh out loud moments. As perverse and obscene the dialogue, violence, and visual details throughout the game are, it never feels distasteful or obnoxious, as it has a way of being presented in a light-hearted and playful tone. As if exploding grumpy old boomers with a bow and dildo could be anything but.
That's my thumb in your bum hole.
The game contributes to the atmosphere with its pixel art graphical style and its great but repetitive soundtrack. Whilst each level does get to the point where the tracks do repeat themselves, the tracks themselves are varied and for the most part, pretty good. I think these types of games are musically important due to the simplistic but fun gameplay of an arena shooter, and the music helps levels to stand out. Taking cues from Doom's doom metal, enemy wave combat does drop beats with its original metal score. However, I was surprised with the number of more low-key level-centric themes, as examples, a war-infused Mexican anthem or horror house-esque synths of the Nut House level.
Ow! Rinse and repeat.
Great stuff, although, as I said, some do outstay their welcome in the longer levels. The real meat and potatoes here though is the gunplay, and I have to be honest, I didn't expect much at all. Knowing this was a spin-off title of a popular franchise, made by a developer who did not develop the source material, this often presents red flags, and more often than not, rightly so. The first level of the game is set in the suburbs, or a dream version of it, and it's okay. Going from house to house, looting ammo, health pickups in the forms of blood bags and pizza and armor along the way, taking out old dudes and their dogs, and unlike most shooters in the genre, not all sentient creatures are hostile, as we encounter non-hostile residents in each level that are killable for Walmart bags containing health pickups. Finding a buzzsaw, a pistol and a shotgun in the first mission, it's a pretty standard affair. Running around, blasting enemies to smithereens, has a classic old school feel to it with its fast movement, and movement is essential for survival here. The game is actually pretty difficult and you will die pretty quickly if you're not moving around on your feet. Whilst trying to keep old school cool, included are more modern gameplay mechanics that help maintain the gameplay's position closer to the fluid, fast-paced action with a nostalgic touch, rather than leaning towards repetitive boredom. These modern mechanics themselves, though, are ripped straight out of Doom Eternal and other games that have since adopted this grapple hook mechanic. This in itself, during the first level, put the fear in my mind that these now oversaturated mechanics in modern games would in themselves give the game a short time before it became stale. Essentially a weak Doom Eternal wannabe in a suburban setting that is only held up by its humour and crudeness, which can only take you so far. Then I began level 2, named the Bareback Redemption.
Those moronic developers thought they could hide this from me?
Then level 3, 4, 5, and so on. I'm currently just over halfway through the game, and the variety and elegance of brain damaged level design, creature design and weapons is something that really surprised me. Each level takes place in a completely different setting, all with various battle arenas and puzzles. Level 4, as an example, the simple but effective intricacies of the level design with traps, secret doors, and traversing through the level was a point in which I realised Hyperstrange knew what they were doing with this IP by taking it and transforming it into a competent first-person shooter. And the weapons themselves, in their functionality, aren't anything new, however the designs and secondary fire modes make them feel unique, even if the brainfuck gun is a glorified laser rifle, or the nail biter that shoots clocks to slow down time is just a machine gun with a slow motion grenade. But the designs and funk of these weapons made me forget that all of these weapons were in fact guns we had used before in other games, yet they were also fun to use. They are pretty well balanced also. The shotgun really is a close range weapon, not able to incapacitate anything more than a few feet away, giving me plenty of reason to incorporate the grapple hook to get close to foes, and the big holy bombs fired from the grenade launcher take a little time to go off, which means I had to be a little strategic when using them. Yes, the gun goes brrr, machine gun just tears down anything in your sight, and the auto-locking curving bullet pistol can be used to cheese enemies early on when you have low health, but everything had its uses and forced me to switch it up enough when playing. There are consumables that give you short-term boosts that can be used, and these range from guns akimbo for a short time, which is absolute nuts with the right weapons, to drinks that make you piss fire or ice.
Colder than a nipple on a witch's tit.
That's right, you can whip out your cock at any time and piss on anything that moves. I did find it a little strange that the pork sword was censored, considering there were many phallus resembling objects in the game. Not that I was particularly keen to see a willy taking a leak, I just thought out of everything, that wouldn't have been the worst thing in the game. But it was the little bizarre things like this that give Postal Brain Damaged its identity. The gameplay is tight, but it has been done before. It tries to take the retro shooter and merge it with modern gameplay mechanics, something that has been done before. It tries to be super edgy and controversial, something that has been done before. Doom, Shadow Warrior, Duke Nukem. Played any of these games and Postal Brain Damaged will immediately be familiar to you, but again, this is not a criticism, and it is the game's unique designs with its overly sexualized, grotesque creatures, fourth wall breaking references and humour that knows its audience and culture by turning memes into gameplay. I mean, the first boss of the game is a literal Karen making a complaint at a knockoff Walmart.
Double the pleasure. Ow! Jeez!
Go back to your country! I'm calling the police!
Who wouldn't want to unload buckets of lead into that?
Ow!